Hey guys, it's History Behind the Warrior, and today I'm going to be talking about the possible and real ending we have for Injustice 2. Since there are two different endings to the game, I'll be talking about each of them in depth, then after, I will give my own personal judgment on which one I can see kind of coming to fruition. Now first off, let's talk about the good ending. Now the good ending itself is very simple. After an argument breaks out between the heroes, a conflict ensues, and once again Bruce and Clark come to blows. Now with the assistance of the Kryptonite suit, Bruce is able to defeat Clark, in which he's then taken to the Fortress of Solitude and is imprisoned in the Phantom Zone. So he more or less willingly steps into there, but not without uttering the words that he will in fact return, and he will come back for this world. Now in Bruce's arcade ladder ending, after the defeat of Brainiac and the incarceration of Clark, he would be approached by President Kane to essentially help rebuild the world, as at this point he's a very strong figure and does have the money and resources to help out. So because of this, he in fact leaves the Justice League and lets Hal and Barry oversee the future of the new young hero. Now although Bruce at the current moment is somewhat retired, he is in secret preparing for Clark's return, assembling as much kryptonite as possible to make sure that when Clark does eventually come back, he is more than prepared to take him down. Now this is a very interesting ending. There's a lot going on here cinematically and really what this kind of leads to in the future. Now starting right off the bat, Clark is depowered before he enters the Phantom Zone with what does seem to be gold kryptonite. Now gold kryptonite can completely depower a Kryptonian if they're exposed to it long enough. Now from this ending, we do not really know the severe effects of the gold kryptonite and how it affects Cal, but it seems that he's been exposed to enough that it temporarily depowers him, as he is seen with kryptonite handcuffs. What happens now to him as he steps through the Phantom Zone? What could this possibly lead to? Well, here's my own personal theory of what can happen from this point onwards. Cal, although temporarily depowered, obviously is able to break away from his handcuffs, but for the time being, he is stranded in the Phantom Zone. So what does he do in his free time? He starts recruiting a new team. You see, Cal isn't the only person who's stranded there. There are quite a few people who are put here, two who we've actually seen in game. The first one being Doomsday, and the second one being General Zod. Now Zod is heavily mentioned within Injustice 2. He's used as a reference point by Kara, as she tries to convince Cal that his ideals no longer line up with Hope, but instead that of Zod's. And even in the bad ending, Superman even says that he supports Zod's ideals. So what are the possibilities that if Cal were to enter the Phantom Zone, he would align himself with his fellow Kryptonian? They both have the same vision, and they both don't want to be within the Phantom Zone. Now Zod wouldn't obviously be his only recruit. You see, whilst he had the world in his hands, Clark sent many individuals to the Phantom Zone to be re-educated. So General Zod isn't necessarily the only supervillain here. There are many more, and I could see Clark kind of enforcing his rule all upon them and have them work as his underlings and soldiers for his eventual return and invasion of Earth. So yeah, this is my own personal theory, but this is a very cool setup for the next game. And whilst in the Phantom Zone, he may be able to recruit super galactic beings or extremely smart individuals that can assist in his return, as there aren't really that many ways of getting out of the Phantom Zone. But this is just my first theory. Now let's talk about the quote-unquote bad ending, where Clark is able to defeat Bruce and really somewhat becomes Space Hitler. So after defeating Bruce and killing Brainiac, Superman takes his ship and bonds with it, in which we see later on that he's using Brainiac's ship to brainwash individuals to work for him. And in his arcade ladder ending, we learn that he has his eyes set on not just ruling this planet, but every single reality he can get his hands on. There is no limit for his desire and conquest. So now, much like the good ending, where can I see this story arc going? Well, Injustice does focus quite heavy on the whole multiverses thing. So what I could see happening here is Clark reaching out and conquering different worlds, as well as different multiverses. And I believe that at some point, he's going to come into contact with the same universe that had beaten him in the first game. So now what else does this really do for a story? Well, it creates a very interesting world versus world aspect to it, where one has to fight off another in order to survive, which is really cool and does set up this whole massive kind of crazy multiverse war. This also in turn allows us to bring back somewhat old characters from a different reality back into the storyline, so it can somewhat pick up where it left off, and Clark can go find himself another Lois Lane. But this has just been my idea for the bad ending. Now it is a little bit crazy, but for both of these endings, I really did want to kind of set something up for the next game to contend with, which is a mass invasion of a global scale. I believe this is a great way of kind of bringing back old faces and really having them fight against each other. Now here's the moment of truth. Which one has more validity? Well, as much as I like the idea of the good ending, I'm going to have to say the bad ending, and here's why. The General Zod theory, although as good as it sounds, isn't 100% set in stone. In the Injustice Injustice 2 campaign, we do have references to him, but nothing including arcade endings that really kind of gives us an idea that he's still lurking around. When we go to the whole brainwashing aspect, we actually see Gorilla Grodd feature the same thing, where he brainwashes people, turns the heroes into his slaves, and begins conquering worlds. Sound like anyone else we know? Now, I will always say that I have the possibility of being completely wrong here, but if there are lines of similarity, then we can get a rough idea of where we're getting diverted to, and what story arcs are going to happen. Now, in my heart, I deeply want the good ending to happen, because this brings a lot of characters within the Phantom Zone into the next game, which means we can have intergalactic super powerful beings, and my word, would it be cool to have the Anti-Monitor featured in the next game. So from what you can tell, it's a very mixed bag for me. From similarities alone, I will say that the bad ending has a possibility of coming to fruition, but from the sheer amount of ridiculous possibilities you can have by just pulling people from the Phantom Zone and the invasion story arc, you could have a gold mine on your hands. So this is the question that I ask all of you people watching: which ending do you think is canon? And also, where do you see that ending leading to? Please leave it down in the comments below. It can create an extremely interesting discussion, and so people can put out some really cool ideas for what we can see in the future. Of course, I've only just put two here that I've just kind of thought about as it's been on my mind for a while, but with YouTube being a great platform for me to put out a question like this, I'd want to hear your own opinions on this, because remember, everything I say here isn't set in stone. But yeah, this pretty much does wrap up the video, guys. I hope I've put a rather interesting question out there for all of you guys to kind of look into, as it does intrigue me myself. Now, next week's Injustice 2 video will be me talking about Wonder Woman and whether or not she kind of is the true villain within the Injustice series. She has a lot to answer for, as she has done some extremely grisly things, and it seems like she's the mastermind behind Clark's massive change of character. So please do keep an eye out for that video next week. Also, if you're a Tekken fan, I'll let you all know that I'll be making a video on Lei Wulong this Saturday covering his entire background. So if you're interested in that, stick around. Now, before this video wraps up, guys, if possible, let's try getting it to about 500 likes. It's a great way of supporting this channel, as YouTube is still currently going through its adpocalypse, and just by giving it a thumbs up, it helps a ton. Now, as always, guys, please comment, like, subscribe, and share this video with everyone you know. Please take care, and I will see you all next time.